My name's Jermaine Lawlor, founder of Voice for Youth Against Violence Media. I'm a rapper, I'm a poet, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an activist. There's so many different reasons why we find ourselves on the streets and why so many other predominantly young black men find themselves on the streets is because this is a setup, meaning that young men, predominantly young black men, have been set up to fail. Facts, absolutely facts. I've been campaigning, trying to tackle these issues frontline for nearly a decade, and it's always surface level because the system that we live in, the very system that we live in, prevents us from succeeding. Lack of opportunities, deprivation, poverty, social exclusion. We're not given opportunities, we're not given or shown the way, so we resort to our own ways. The blood of all of our brothers is on the doorsteps of the government. The Queen could end poverty in a blink of an eye. How much is the Queen worth? How much are a lot of our leaders worth? Yet we still see poverty. We still see struggle. We still experience hardship. If you come from a middle class white family, there's more chance that you're going to be all right because you're going to go home to 3 solid square meals. You're going to have bonds and money saved up for yourself. You're going to have a stable family. But you see where we're coming from, you don't get none of that. You don't get none of that. And as a result, you're forced to make a living, to provide for your family, to provide for those that you love. Nothing's going to change until the system changes. The system's not going to change. The system's had chances to change. I've told them the problems. I've explained why and how, but still don't see no difference. Still not being heard. And they wonder why killings are on the rise in London. They wonder why someone's getting shot every day. Someone's being stabbed every day. They've made it like this. This is a setup. They set us up to fail. So as a result, we have to make our own path. We have to make our own opportunities. The prison system's a failure. The system fails people day in, day out, fails families. The prison system is a business. The prison system produces income per inmate, year in, year out. It's a profitable industry. Where's the justice in that? There's so many reasons why we find ourselves on the streets, where we're stuck and forced to the streets. We're born into a cycle, we're born into a system, and depending on where you are in that system, depends on your lifestyle, depends on your opportunities, depends on your peer groups, depends on your ability to grow, to succeed, to achieve. We're not given those opportunities. Those opportunities are taken away from us. We're stereotyped. Racism still exists, hasn't gone anywhere. It still exists. It's in most of our institutions. If you look at the structure of these institutions and you look at who they employ, you look at what positions they're in, and you look at the race of these people, it's clear to see that sexism exists and racism still exists. Facts, that is facts. No one wants to work a 9-to-5 job earning minimum wage. That's not cutting it in 2018. And it definitely wasn't cutting it in 2010, 2008, 9, 11, 12. It doesn't cut it. And as a result, families and communities are forced to the streets, are forced to commit crime. Now, of course, if you're looking on the outside in, you see criminals. But from the inside looking out, you see lack of opportunities. You see, the government never ever take responsibility, ever. Always asking the wrong questions. Why do these guys do this? Why do we do that? Why is the situation like this? Knowing the circumstances and the environment that we live in. It's called social disorganisation. We've been placed in council estates with torn down playgrounds where money hasn't been put in or invested for centuries, for decades. You see poverty all over the council estates. Why is that? Why is that? Why do we still have people living on our streets, homeless? But we're building Olympic parks that cost millions, millions and millions of pounds. But we can't invest one youth club in none of these communities. We can't put one music studio in any of these communities. We can't build any gyms with free access in none of these communities. But we can build Olympic parks that don't save anyone's life. We had to find a lot of money to save the bankers. Where's the money to save our young people? We have to find money for war, but we can't find money for freedom. We can't find money for peace. We can't find money for opportunities. Where did these guns come from? Where did the drugs come from? How are the drugs getting into the country is a more important question. How are the guns getting into the country, onto our streets? Because they're the important questions. They're the questions that matter. They're more important than why are you using that gun? Although that's just as important. But isn't it far more important to ask the question of how did these guns get into these streets? Slavery still exists. It hasn't changed, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's more in the mind now. It's more in your mind that have changed around our minds, around our souls, not around our hands. We're not shackled by feet and hand anymore. We're shackled by lack of opportunities, lack of employment. We're basically left to the side of society and left to fend for ourselves and wonder why crime is on the rise. Nothing's going to change because our leaders are not going to change. Until we can find enough money for these communities, until we prioritize our young people and every life on this earth, every human being, more than war, than funding war, we won't see no change. There won't be no change. What would you do? What would you do if you was in the same situation as you've heard these stories? If you was coming from the same circumstances, the same background, what would you do? How would you make your living? Ask yourself that question. Because we're asking the wrong questions and the finger's been pointed in the wrong direction. What's the government doing to help tackle these problems? What's the government doing to better our opportunities? What's the government doing to bring peace on the streets of London? Ask yourself that question. All these issues that we're seeing and that we live in can be stopped. Could be stopped. It takes funding. They starve us. They starve us. You know, growing up, my soul was nothing but hardship. I was on the streets from the ages of 9. I was on the road from 9, 10, and I got arrested at 11. And I didn't change nothing. I didn't change nothing. And from then, I realised that the odds are stacked against you, whether you commit crime or not, whether you're on the streets or not, for the mere fact that you're black. And I remember being forced to the streets. I remember feeling like there was no other options, because there wasn't no other options. And for a lot of my friends, it was the same situations. It was the same feeling hopeless, just feeling isolated from society, feeling excluded from society. That's why people are on the road, to make a living, because no one else out here ain't giving no one nothing. No, most jobs ain't paying well enough. The lifestyle that they advertise, that they publicise, you're not gonna get working in Tesco's. You're not gonna get working in McDonald's. You're not gonna get that lifestyle. And it's about the lifestyle, especially when you've grown up in poverty and you've grown up in pure deprivation. You want the finer things in life. You want nicer things. You want to be able to live, and you can't live because this society squeezes people. It squeezes people, it breaks people, it causes people to have depression. It causes people to break down. It causes families to tear apart. It forces young people onto the streets. It forces young people and people to commit crimes. That's facts, that's facts. They've been doing it, they keep doing it, and they're gonna keep on doing it. And I've been talking for how long? How long have I been talking about what needs to be done? And they're not hearing, they're not listening, because it's a choice. They're choosing not to listen because it's not a priority, it's not on the agenda. Funding wars are more important to Great Britain than to the people of its own country. That's more of a priority than us starving, than us sleeping up and being homeless. Us getting poor education, that's not on the agenda. Us making it out of the ghetto, it's not on the agenda. That's not part of the plan. The plan is to keep us enslaved in this cycle. The criminal justice system fails us consistently. Case in, case out. Prisons fail us. Inmate in, inmate out. The prison system fails us inmate in and inmate out all the time, day in, day out. We're waking up, people have realized that this is a setup. And I've realized it from the frontline work that I've been doing and from where I come from. There's no changes, nothing ain't changed, it's only got worse. So I have to ask myself, why are things not getting better? Why are things getting worse? If we're putting all this money, this so-called funding into these communities and into the police and into all these other areas, why are things getting worse? Ask yourself that question. They got us starving. They forced us to the streets. They force young, predominantly black men to the streets. This is a setup. Poor education, lack of opportunities, media, they fund this chaos that we're seeing. They're adding the fuel to the fire constantly on a day-to-day basis. It's hard to make a living. Who can you trust? You can go throughout the whole of history and you'll see countless accounts of the system failing us, as people, as a community, as a race. They've been doing that for centuries, for decades, for centuries. They've been enslaving us. That hasn't stopped. Slavery hasn't stopped. Of course it hasn't stopped. It still exists. Racism still exists. Racism is still a main function of our society. That is facts. That is factual. That's evident. They've got us enslaved. They forced us to the roads. They forced us to the streets. They forced our hands to pick up guns. They forced us to sell drugs. They forced us into poverty because it's a setup. This is a setup. They've set us up. And it's not going to change. And that's evident from the time they were making cuts to services and communities that were depending on these very funding, these very sources of income to be able to get just a bit more of a better chance in school, in college. They cut that and they haven't put any money back in since. And that's over a decade ago.